don't recognize that, folks.
Oh.
Thank you, Dmitry. Yeah, guys, anyone from the core team? Maybe, well, maybe you?
Yeah, sure. Hi, guys. My name is Pavel. I joined Dvc. I'm working here for about 1.5 years. I guess, yeah, I think it was January 2019 that I joined, or maybe a little bit earlier. And so, yeah, recently it has been like 2 years from my first contribution. And well, you might have met me if you have been working with Dvc ignore, plots, maybe with benchmarks. I think Gao knows all those all those places. So yeah, we've met before. I think I also had the pleasure to meet Nick, but I'm not sure about. Yeah, I also kind of missed the Nicks from the GitHub. Sorry, guys, if I don't recognize you right away, but I will get to that.
Yep. Thank you, Pavel. Saugard, Peter wants to go next. I see that Saugard is having some connection issues. So maybe Peter?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, hey guys, I'm Peter, I guess PM Rolla on GitHub. So I joined the Dvc core team in, I guess, March this year, so it's been about 6 months. I guess, so I work from Korea, so here active on Discord, and I guess like Asian Pacific time zones, you've probably seen me. If you're active in like North American time zones, maybe not. But yeah, great to meet everybody.
Thank you. Saugard? Saugard?
It might be some connections issue, right? This happens with Saugard from time to time.
Yeah, seems like it. Let's see.
Yeah,
okay.
let's
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Saugard, no sound. The video is all right, but no sound for some reason. Okay. Let's see. All right.
Yeah, let's move on, and the Saugard will introduce himself a bit later.
Yeah. So yeah, who wants to go next, guys? Maybe let's start with Gao.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Gao, and I live in China. I'm a user and a contributor to the Dvc. I work for some famous Chinese companies, for example, Huawei. But now I'm working in a unicorn company, and my job is about the natural language processing, and I use Dvc in my work.
Amazing. Yeah, great to see you. I see you, Nick, all the time in the GitHub, but have never seen you online.
Yeah, I really want to join the August conference, but it's too late for me, and I had to go work the next day, so I can't get I can't join the conference in such late time.
Oh.
Yep. Ruslan, a question. Will we have a recording?
Yeah. So yeah, for the record, we are doing a small recording. Probably we're not going to share it. Mostly for internal use. Though we might. Let's see how it goes. If we do, we'll notify you. We'll probably share it on our YouTube channel, same as with the last meetup or yeah conference that we had.
Cool.
The one that yeah Gao is talking about, missing. By the way, Gao, have you seen the recording for that conference?
What?
We had a recording of that meetup, of the August meetup that we had. All right. So yeah, Gao is, has done a lot of things in DVC actually. So like Dvc Ignore, thanks to him, is like much faster than it was before, and much nicer internally actually. Plus check ignore command, which is amazing, also amazing stuff. So yeah, Gao is a very big contributor for us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for contributing. Okay, who wants to go next, guys? Nick wants to go.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Nikita. I live in Russia, in Novosibirsk. Well, I've just started with DVC, like I think, like a regular user, and well, I started using it, I think, about 1 year ago, and mostly started it for data management and data processing. Well, at my job, I do have like some data, and I have to process. Well, it grows with time, and I have to process it well, over and over again. And sometimes those processing procedures do change. So I mostly use DVC like for data managing and pipelines for data pre-processing. And well, after a while, I thought it would be a good idea. Well, since DVC helps me so much at my job, after a while, I thought it would be a good idea to give something back. And well, I don't think I had any big like features, but usually some small fixes, which I usually personally need to make my everyday routine more smooth.
That's the best way, right? To do it with open source. Just fixing stuff that gets in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. By the way, should we call you Nick or Nikita?
Both ways are fine.
Okay. And yeah, last but not least, Puneet, would you?
Oh,
Yeah,
Puneet, there is also Dan, right?
Ah,
Yeah.
yes. I thought that. Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead, Puneet. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm Puneet. I live in India. I work for ThoughtWorks. I started using DVC 1 year back, and yeah, I started giving sessions on it, trying to contribute to its popularity and stuff. That's how I got introduced to DVC, and I thought since it helps me so much, I could contribute to it. I started joining the Discord channel. That community was very welcoming. Then started picking up some issues which I can understand and contribute. Yeah, that's how I started.
Thank you, Puneet. And now, last but not least, this time correctly, Dan. Hey, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a stalker with the DVC. I'm kind of wanting to implement it into the work that I do, but I'm very green. I don't know much about it or how to do anything quite yet, but it's something that I want to incorporate with my teams. And I have a little one, so that's why I'm muted.
Like two of you online.
right? And I don't think that we actually met then on GitHub, right? Not or on Discord. Maybe you use some other nickname that I'm just not familiar with.
I'm not 100% sure what I don't think I'm on the Discord.
Ah, okay. And not on GitHub, at least not on our GitHub.
No, not yet.
Got it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, let me double check that I'm not missing anyone.
Saugard.
Yeah, Saugard. How's the sound? No sound. Not hearing anything from you, Saugard. Not sure why. Check the devices. Maybe Zoom is not using the correct.
Maybe someone can talk about Saugard.
Yeah.
And if the issue is fixed, so later Saugard can introduce himself. Who would like to take this responsibility of Saugard?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So Saugard is our core team member as well. He joined like also half a year ago. More than that, right? Like almost actually 9 months ago, right? Saugard is involved in pretty much all of the subsystems of DVC, but mostly, I guess one of the most, I guess one of the biggest features that you might have run into in your day-to-day life is the new DVC format, Dvc file format, right? So all of the changes that we had in 1.0 with multi-stage Dvc file, right, Dvc YAML, his creation. So yeah, right. So yeah, so we have half of the core team. Sorry, half of the people here from the core team, half of the contributors. Let's, I guess, I don't know, maybe let's start off with questions actually, just to get the thing going. We have some topics, geeky topics, I guess, that we can discuss about the features and even bugs, in DVC that we can discuss. But maybe you have any particular questions or feature requests or anything like that. So feel free to speak up.
I probably have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't used much, most of the features after version 1 have been released. And now I'm starting to use metrics. And I'm not really sure if, if there is I haven't looked at them like very carefully, but it seems I can't limit the scope of the metrics I see. I mean, if I have some kind of mono repository which have several totally independent models, and if I only need to show divs or if I only interested in like one of them, is it really well, it seems there is. Well, I'm looking right now, it seems there is, but I think that command line help probably not that clear as command reference on your site. But it seems possible, right?
So
to limit scope of the metrics I want to see.
Right. So you mean the scope? So the current granularity is file level, right? So you can specify particular file that you care about, or like a directory, so with files with metrics in it.
Yeah, it seems it's enough for most, well, at least for my cases.
Yeah,
and another question is probably connected with one of my pull requests.
Maybe we should clarify just to make sure this metrics question is right.
Okay.
So are you saying that in monorepo, when you do metrics diff, there are too much metrics, right?
Yeah.
Too many metrics. Yeah. And Ruslan's point is you can specify like a particular file, usually means particular model, and then this is how you can reduce the scope of the metrics, right?
Yeah.
This is how it works today, and in many cases it might be enough. I don't know if it's enough for you, Nick, but in many cases it's enough. But you're actually right. We need some kind of filters, and we used to have these filters, and we get rid of them in the old format. But yes, we need to introduce something like filters, because sometimes you are interested in like 2 metrics, for example. You don't need like all 7.
Yeah, and about, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
And it seems, well, I'm not sure what the problem is. If I'll have time to get in details, I'll probably make a bug report on GitHub. Or probably it's already fixed and I'm not using the latest version. But it's sometimes, well, you know, when metrics just appeared, I started to dump in a free format. It was neither JSON, neither CSV. It was just, well, some text file which had some like lines in it. And well, I'm not sure if it works now, but sometimes I get an error when I run Dvc metrics show, and I'm not sure if it is connected with such a format.
By the way,
well,
which version are you using? Which version are you using?
I think last time I've checked, it was 1.2.
Okay, so
it's quite outdated already, I think.
Yeah. Do recommend upgrading, definitely. A lot of changes since then. But yeah, so we used to support like arbitrary formats like CSV and even plain text, but we stopped doing that. The reason is that usually for metrics to use like JSON or YAML, right? At least. Yeah, so that answers the question, I guess, about us not supporting plain text files, but we actually try to load like even arbitrary file as a JSON, right, or as YAML, and often plain text files with like metrics, I don't know, name or the value, right? They are actually a valid JSON or a valid YAML, right? Even if there is only one like line with one value. If it gets like more complicated than that, then yeah, we will just refuse to show it. Okay. But in the newer versions, I'm not sure what error are you getting, but in the newer versions, we just ignore them. So if we're not able to parse it, we just say that there is nothing we can do there.
Yeah, I mean, I've encountered when it wasn't ignored, but like refused to show me any metric entirely, which
right.
I think it's not very...
Got it. So you got an error saying that there is no metrics in your repository.
Well, we had some discussion in one of the issues, and whoa, okay. It seems right now, well, okay, it seems I'm looking at in it right now, and I'm not sure. It's probably just, well, I think I'll get in it in detail and create a PR if I'll get, but it seems, well, I've installed the latest version, and it seems just some well, found duplicate key. It shows me probably format is wrong. I'm not sure. I'll check it later. Sorry.
Yeah, sounds like a Dvc file formatting issue.
Yeah, to me, it looks like we just need to talk about your format and maybe decide to support the format or maybe just to put a better message, something like we don't know this format. You should use like JSON YAML CSV instead, maybe something like this.
Yeah, but the good news is that Peter is actually working on a new feature which is called Experiments, which has a new like way of showing the metrics in general, right? Peter, maybe you can maybe you could talk a little bit about that table with the metrics and the parameters.
Yeah, sure. I guess just like I said, basically there'll be more, I guess. I don't know if he's friendly.
I don't know if it's my issue, but there is some noise or echo from Peter. Is there a way to fix it somehow? I don't know.
I also hear it, yeah, for some reason.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah. It is like choppy, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, by the way, I see that, yeah, other guys also joined. George and LP is back. Guys, maybe you want to introduce yourself while we're resolving the technical difficulties.
Yeah.
LP, George?
Yeah, I lost the connection the first time. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and I'll do a quick one. Yes, my name is Lars, and you can't know me or my GitHub short name. I haven't contributed at all yet. I've used Dvc a bit, and I liked it very much, and I just wanted to listen in and see whether this is maybe something I can contribute to at some point. So I'll just follow in. I have some connection trouble, so this may be coming back. But I join and fall out a few times.
Okay. Have you? Are you on our Discord, by the way? Okay.
Pardon?
Are you on our Discord?
At what?
Okay.
Discord.
I guess not. Yeah, Discord.
A chat.
Huh?
Yes, the chat.
Connection problems, I guess. All right. Yeah. George, do you want to introduce yourself?
I guess George is Jorge, no?
Yeah.
He or she said there is a connection issue.
Right.
Yeah. It was a message.
Yeah.
Just like. Yeah. Oh, cool. Peter.
Yeah, let's get back to Peter, I guess. Peter.
Yeah, is my audio any better? Or is it still the same?
Much better, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so anyways, like Ruslan was saying, so we have this new, I guess, in development feature, and one of the things will be, I guess, like a slightly more user-friendly, or I guess like human readable table in right from the command line that will be able to show you things like metrics and parameters, as well as I guess for basically any commit in your repository. And then I guess the bigger thing with this new feature is that we have what's called, or at least what we're calling right now, I guess ephemeral experiments or ephemeral commits. So basically you can generate experiments without that will be tracked in DVC locally, but you don't have to actually make formal, like full Git commits to your main repository. So basically, if you, I guess like the main use case will be, or at least right now, is we allow you to also set parameter values right from the command line. So like right now it's as a part of DVC repro, but that might change in the future. But basically, so you can easily script, I guess, like a bigger range of parameters, and DVC can run repro however many times for all of these different parameter sets. And then you'll be able to see like the outputs or like the output metrics and everything for that set of experiments right from this new table.
And Peter, maybe you better show this.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, maybe I think you had some Askinima recordings.
And
yeah,
I can show if you wish. I have like right away or right here.
Yeah. Yes.
Peter, would you like me to show or you will be showing?
I can bring it up here real quick.
By the way, another contributor joined, Kurian. Hey.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this feature is actually available to test and play around with in the latest DVC. It's not production ready, but so from the main DVC GitHub repository, we have a wiki page with details on what's available right now. So it's this experiments development status. And again, the main warning is this is a very experimental feature. You should not use it in like production environments. It's really just for users to play around with right now and give some early feedback. But basically, yeah, so there's a few of these Askinima like screen recordings. And so basically this is the initial proof of concept for this feature. So basically this is the example getting started repository that's available just from like the DVC, I guess, documentation and tutorial. And so this is sort of this is a proof of concept of what this table might look like in the future. Right now, if you play around with it, most of the formatting stuff has been turned off. But basically you can see this is just my cleanly, like freshly cloned copy of the repo. And then, yes, so right now when you run this repro with the experiments flag, this is just showing that in this case, there was no changes to the parameters. And so this is an early version of the feature where you can edit your parameters YAML file, and then again, generate one of these ephemeral experiments. And so you can see the changes have been checked out into my local workspace, but in this case, I don't want to actually commit these to my like main Git repository because then this is like values that I'm just testing. I know like hyperparameter search, I think, is one of the potential use cases that people that I guess this feature came from. But basically, this is things that you're testing that you don't really want to commit in your repository yet. And so basically, you can see here, this is I guess my ephemeral experiment commit, and you can see like, so this is the metrics and the parameters for that specific commit. And so again, we can see this is derived from this 4AE git SHA is, I guess, the latest head commit in my original Git repository. And so DVC will allow you to track any number of these, I guess, commits that derive, or any number one of these experiments that derive from a main commit, but you don't actually have to pollute your, I guess, main Git repository with like tons and tons of branches or tons and tons of commits that you end up not even needing later on. And so again, this is a really early video. It'll be more useful to go to. This is an example of being able to specify parameters from the command line.
Right, and regarding the question from Nick or from Nikita about filtering metrics, this comment that Peter is showing, that table that Peter was showing, that actually supports filtering by metrics, right? Including, excluding parameters, metrics, and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, so that's right. I don't have there's no screen recording for it, but I can show you an example of what that will look like after this video. Yeah, so you can see here, yeah, basically, yeah, I'm setting, these are fields from my params.yaml file, but I'm able to like queue them up right from the command line. And so again, like this would be easily scriptable in Bash or whatever to generate a large number of different parameters that you want to try out. And then again, you can see here, so this is the experiments that I have queued, but not actually repro'd yet. And so that's why they're marked with the asterisk right now, and there's no output metrics, but you can see the input param values. And then
May I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, in the last table you showed and in the previous one, could you please explain one more time what does this tree-like structure mean?
Yeah, sure. So actually,
yeah.
Yeah. So here, I guess basically, if you think about what a normal like DVC Git repository would look like, so let's say I like this first ACD Git is head in my Git repo, and then if I wanted to generate several experiments based on that commit, but I'm not sure. I guess in this case we're doing the equivalent of generating Git branches from that original commit, and that's what each one of these experiments is essentially a branch, except that in this case we don't require you to actually make a new Git branch, because again, potential use case for this might be I might need to generate 100 different possible experiments based on this first commit, and then eventually I'll only want to select like maybe one or two of them to turn into actual Git branches. But in this case, DVC will let you generate all of those commits, and it'll show you like the metrics and params, and you can generate plots and so on, like anything else in DVC. But you won't actually have to pollute your main Git repo with like that 100 different potential like test branches. We basically just do that for you under the hood.
Oh, okay.
And so like in this case, this tree like structure is just saying like these are all basically branches that originally are derived from this parent commit. So these are all like basically parallel Git branches.
And how do I create like a real branch from?
Yeah, so in this case, I think there's actually, I don't know if it's in this one or not, but basically we have so there's another command as a part of this feature set called Dvc Experiments Checkout. And so basically in that table, we could see that like these like experimental branches also all had their own like SHA hashes. And so if you run Dvc Experiments Checkout and then one of those experiment branches, it will pull all of those changes into your local workspace for you to basically do anything else you would normally do in your normal DVC workspace. And then if you decide that you want to keep that experiment, right now you would basically just run git add all, and then commit that like you would anything else with like a normal DVC commit. And so again, like this is all very like proof of concept, and a lot of these commands and usage will get cleaned up in the future. But yeah, so again, with regard to what you were asking about before, yeah, so we have this table, and what you can do is we have specific flags for include params, and there's also include metrics and then exclude params and metrics to only show specific columns. So in this case, the example getting started repo I think normally has like 6 or 7 different parameters. And so by default, if you just ran like dvc exp show, it would show you the full table with all like 7 parameter columns. But in this case, I've just said I only want to see this train.seed as well as all of the featureized parameters. And so it gives me specifically those 3 columns that I asked for. And then there's also some ability to do sorting on specific columns. But again, this is all of this UI stuff will probably change as we get further into this development for this feature. But again, this is available in the latest DVC for users to play around with. On this wiki page, there's information on how to configure repo to enable it, because again, all of this functionality is disabled by default right now. But for anybody that's interested in trying it out, feel free.
Okay, thank you.
And regarding the metrics diff, like coming back to the original question, when this API will be stabilized, we probably will introduce absolutely the same set of metrics, or absolutely the same set of parameters to the metrics, right? You will have the same set of params in both of the commands.
Right.
Yeah.
My mic is muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying that we expect Dvc exp show and exp div to replace separate commands that we currently have, like Dvc params show and Dvc metrics show and div, stuff like that. Maybe they will be left as a like redundant way of achieving a similar functionality, but this should be much more usable. And actually, since this is a contributor meetup, the way experiments are implemented is also like very interesting. Like maybe Peter could also share like a few words about what's going on under the bonnet, because it is.
Yeah. So basically, the way it's implemented right now is we basically have a separate. We run our own. I guess we make a clone of your Git repository and keep that in a DVC specific like .dvc/experiments directory. So basically, like I said, these experiments are the equivalent of Git branches without actually having to pollute your Git repository with hundreds of branches. Basically, under the hood, we are actually generating those Git branches and just storing them in this DVC only clone. But yeah, so basically, there's nothing particularly new functionality-wise in experiments. It's basically just taking things that you could already do with DVC and Git, but just doing them all inside this experiment-specific clone workspace, and then letting you basically letting you check out, changes from this experiment-specific workspace into your main parent repo. But yeah, it basically just hides the clutter of having to manage like hundreds and hundreds of Git branches yourself under the hood. But yeah, but so again, basically anything you can already do in DVC, you can really do with, you should be able to do with experiments. I guess the only issue right now is that there aren't experiments UI like equivalent commands for certain features, but for the most part, eventually that should be completely possible. But yeah.
Some people might even remember the times when we used to recommend people using separate branches to like manage their experiments, but in an early stage, right? And yeah, to say the least, it wasn't very convenient, right? If your project grew, but with this feature, yeah, should be much nicer, much more manageable than it was before.
Yeah, but I think it's important to kind of separate different types of experiment, right? If you do like one fish experiment, which you will be working for like a half a day or maybe like 2 weeks, it's absolutely fine and preferable to create a branch and work on this. But when you start like experimenting like 7 times in 1 hour, it might be a bit too painful to create branch, then like see, then merge, then look at it.
Yeah.
Like do diffs and all the stuff, and experiment just streamlines this experience, right? When you need to create like 7 branches in 1 hour, or maybe like 300 branches in 1 hour, to kind of one single command to create, and one single command to get the overall picture, and so far and so on.
Yeah. Oh, Jorge. Yeah, maybe. Are you ready to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jorge. I'm also with the DVC team. Mostly I work on the documentation side, things, writing our docs and things like that, explaining things. That's what I try to do. So yeah, interested to see some of the questions here. I'm also learning a lot about experiments right now. And that's it. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, if you've enjoyed our docs, Jorge is the one to thank for that. We've been hearing some very good response about the docs. Okay. Yeah, guys, maybe I don't know.
How about Saugard? Saugard, can you talk now? Maybe he can introduce finally himself shortly. Still no?
So good.
Okay.
Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we can. Could you search for that?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Good to see everyone. And I'm Meetup contributors. My name is Sargon Saugard, and you might know me by S3 in GitHub. And I'm from Nepal. I joined Dvc like 9 months ago. I think everything else is already mentioned by Ruslan. Yeah, and I recently worked with a new file format for the dbc.yaml. I guess that.
And actually, what you probably don't see, guys, it's some internal work that we do these days. So Saugard has been involved in refactoring our internal, I guess, architecture for we call them trees. This is the stuff that actually affects pretty much everything, starting from like particular remote implementations to import get to push pull. All of that stuff is affected by that, I guess, subsystem. So Saugard has been actively working on improving the architecture there, so we can implement feature faster, more, and for them to be more efficient and easier for us to fix the bugs and stuff. Yeah, if you will be, yeah, if you'll ever contribute anything related to like remotes, or if you, yeah, then you will probably run into it, into the trees. So yeah, yeah. Guys, any questions? Maybe topics, feature requests. No?
I had one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so in the experiments, we can change parameters and run different experiments, and Dvc takes care of creating branch under the hood in /dvc/experiments folder. But we should not be combining code changes along with the parameters changes, right? Because if we do code changes, how will it update /dvc/experiments? It's not a good practice, right? To combine both hyperparameter tuning and code changes.
Right. So the way it's implemented right now is basically if you need to make actual code changes, then you would want to commit those code changes in your normal like Dvc Git repository, and then you would generate a new set of experiments based on that whatever your new latest commit is that contains those code changes. But as you said, like right now, yeah, basically, when you're generating experiments with the parameters value from the command line, basically, it will only run it will basically only run using like already committed code. So yeah, basically, I guess the generating experiments with parameter differences should be considered separate from like generating experiments with based on code changes, I guess. It's something that, yeah, I guess like we have discussed at least a little bit, or at least we touched on potentially like how to handle things like code changes and parameter changes, I guess, like together. But as it's implemented right now, it's basically code changes would need to be like formal commits in your main parent repository, and then parameters, like the experimentation stuff, is basically just strictly parameter changes right now.
Yeah, can I add something here?
Yeah.
So regarding the code changes and parameter changes, I agree that this is kind of not a good practice when you change code with parameters on the same time during the experiments. But I think sometimes you need to do this. I think it's good to have this functionality. And why it's not a good practice right now, because most of the current tools that people use for experiments, like MLflow and some like NeptuneML, weight and biases and whatever, they just don't support this because they are not connected to Git. They cannot implement this functionality. And in DVC, we can do this, right? We can support this functionality. You change code, you change hyperparameter, run experiment, and we capture like everything because we work with Git because we can do this. And I think it's good to have everything, and then user decides what is a good practice for him on this particular project and this particular stage, or what is not. So it's good to have both parameters and hyperparameters changes at the same time, I think.
And to be clear, we do allow it, right now.
Yeah, right now we do allow, yeah.
I mean, that like when we create an experiment, we take into account both your change effective parameter and to your code, right, as a part of the dirty state of the.
Yeah. So you can go and modify your params YAML. Then you go to like your code, you modify your code, no commits, and then you run experiment, and you see kind of a new kind of ephemeral commits with a new metrics. But this commit remembers like everything about your project. Code changes, like meta parameters changes, like data changes, like results, like everything. And even data changes. Sometimes you need to modify data and run an experiment, and with the assumption that it might be not needed, right? It might be not a good idea. And this workflow is also supported right now with within the experiments. But the question of good practices is kind of a separate, right? Because in some stages of the project, when project is mature enough, yeah, this is absolutely not a good practice.
Yeah, and we actually have a long story with like bad practices, or at least seemingly bad practices, right? For example, many of you might have heard about persist option for DVC run, like for specific outputs. And we always put a disclaimer that like there is this hidden feature, but we don't recommend it really, right? Because we are not sure if this is a good practice or not. It started out as a hack, pretty much, I know, some time ago. We did implement it because some guys were like clearly asking for it, but we didn't yet formalize it. So it is like still an illegal option, bootleg option that only some people that are really looking for it are finding. Yeah, so this is kind of the same with the. Yeah, it will be the same with the changing the code along with your parameters, right? Even though it seems a little bit dirty, but we will allow it. Oh, and I see another guy.
I had one more clarifying thing. So, say I'm experimenting, I changed parameter twice, and also I thought it would be good to change some code also. And I changed some code without committing. I ran three more parameter change. And if I use Dvc Experiment Checkout, will it wipe out the code changes also, or only do parameter changes? Because if every code change is also committed, then it's kind of unclear.
So you're saying if you have I guess code changes, like uncommitted code changes in your like main workspace, and then you run checkout an experiment, like what I guess like, so if you I guess the way I usually think about it is it works similar to I guess how git stash works. So like doing a Dvc experiment checkout is basically like sort of equivalent to running git stash pop. Where if there's no code changes in the experiment you're checking out, so like basically if the experiment you run checkout for only has changes to params.yaml, the only thing that we will touch in your current workspace is params.yaml. So after you run checkout, the contents of parameters of the YAML will be whatever was in that specific experiment, but all of your other workspace changes will still be there. So we don't, I guess like, yeah. So the only way, I guess like your code changes would disappear is if the experiment you were checking out also had code changes to like the same file or whatever. So I guess right now is like we don't do, there's no, I guess like smart merging or anything when you run experience checkout. It basically just it basically just prefers the version of the file that's in that experiment. But as long as it's but yeah, basically we only pull the changes from files that were actually modified in that experiment. So basically, if you have code changes and only parameter changes, if you have code changes in your workspace and only parameter changes in the experiment you are checking out, only those parameter changes will be applied to your workspace, and all of your other existing changes or on-track files, et cetera, all of those changes will be preserved. Yeah, I guess like I said, basically the way I think about it is, I guess experiments is sort of like a DBC stash-ish function. So like when you generate an experiment, it's basically like stashing those changes, and then when you run checkout, it's just like stash popping those changes. But yeah.
Actually, about DVC stash, some people actually asked us about it, right? And we have thought about it, not in terms of the experiments, right? But more about like data management, to like stash away your changes like to your data files temporarily to be able to like bring them back quickly without doing a commit. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, experiments kind of provide this functionality, I think.
Yeah, true.
Right, because an experiment is kind of a stash, which we can even show you like summary with metrics and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's, yeah. Maybe any other questions?
Are the experiments permanently saved in DVC cache, and how does DVC GC DVC garbage collector would handle those experiments?
Right. So currently, so whenever you, so like the results of your experiment runs are stored in your local cache, like just like as if you ran repro normally. But in this case, if you run GC right now, it will delete the outputs from your experience because again, this is like an in-development feature. Eventually, there will be, I guess, GC flags to like preserve and delete, I guess, like basically entire experience. So like if you're done with experience based on some commit, you'll be able to basically GC everything, including like the experiment commits themselves, so they won't show up in your table anymore, as well as the like outputs in your cache. But yeah, basically you'll be able to use GC to remove, I guess, things that you don't need the same way you would like with anything else in DVC right now. But yeah, like I said, if you're testing this out right now, you probably don't want to run GC because it will delete your experiment outputs. But eventually it'll work the same way as GC for everything else in DVC.
And is it visible? Are experiments visible to, well, if we are using shared development server, are experiments visible just for me or for everyone?
Yeah, so currently they're local only. We're also discussing ways to make them shareable, because I know that's something that a lot of people have been asking about related to experience. So like being able to share them with, like, when you're working on a shared development team is something that is definitely like a feature that we will address when it comes to experience. But yeah, it's not implemented right now.
And yeah, and probably worth mentioning that experiments feature in general is actually a precursor for more advanced pipelining, right, for us. So something like hyperparameter search, which was annoying earlier, or it had to be done by yourself, right, without DVC, or I guess by your own stage, right, in one stage. So DVC only sees one stage, the whole hyperparameter search as the one pipeline stage, which is, yeah, which is not ideal, right? Now we will be able to do that natively with DVC. We will combine our forces in experiments, Dvc file format, as well as some optimizations for storing the data to provide that, yeah, that feature to the users. Yeah.
Yes, I think it is a useful feature, and actually I am doing the similar thing myself here. In my work, I commit backs of a bunch experiment commit, and I also put all my parameters in my matrix field, and at last I load them, use pandas, and show them in a table. I think the final results Peter showed is very similar to my my pandas table now, and I'm using and the question is that I'm now submit a lot of git tags and commits for the current time.
Yeah, in this sense, experiments do the same thing as many people already do, right? It's just about like mainstreaming this, streamlining this experience from users and put the DVC functionality in the basic DVC functionality. And it will be great if you can play with experiments and provide your feedback. There are already like many issues in the issue tracker, or you can directly contact Peter, for example, or me, and give some feedback about the experiments.
We actually had some users that just found it without us announcing it. It was even before we had a wiki page for it, so they just found it and like, hey, can I use it? No. Yeah. Now it should be much smoother. Yeah, guys. Puneet is asking, can we attach human-friendly tags or names for each experiment? Peter, I guess, again for you. Question for you.
Yeah, not at the moment. That's something that we should probably have. But yeah, that's something that we can definitely implement like easily right now. But yeah.
Yeah, like again, names for experiments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tags,
but yeah, like right now it'll only identify them by, I guess, git shows. But yeah, like we can definitely add support for names.
Mm-hmm.
We had already had all the parameters in the metric table, and I don't think it is necessary for. maybe we can.
Yeah, this is good point. Yeah, if you like parameter driven and you like everything is kind of developed like for parameter, then yes, then no need. Like everything is there. However, how about like code changes? Sometimes it's not clear, right? What was changed? DVC knows that code was changed, but like has no idea like what exactly. And in this case, it makes sense to put some comment, maybe not comment, but like name or something.
Maybe we can highlight those parameters from
every experiments.
What exactly do you mean? What to highlight? The fact that code was changed, or
or the changes in the parameters and metrics, maybe like color coded or what? Yeah, so we don't have any color coding yet, and I mean it is kind of hard to know, right? What I mean, intuitively, you would probably want to see like if your metrics like got better, right? To see it marked like as green, right? Getting better. If it is the same, then like I don't know, yellow or no color at all. And if it is getting worse, then like red or something. But for DVC, it is actually hard to know what you like, what that metric is, right? And whether or not the bigger the better, or the lower the better, and or maybe I don't know, maybe some combination of those, and maybe you have some sectors of good metrics and bad metrics. So we don't have that yet, but we've been talking about it for a long time. Actually, it will be added to the Dvc file format. So you will be able to like, you're already able to tell Dvc whether or not something is metric or not, and then you will also have another option to tell it like, I guess.
Kind of optimization. Is it like maximum or minimum metrics? Yeah, this will be like really helpful, and some coloring or maybe some other ways to show what changed and what is the direction of the change. And also when you have like dozens of metrics and you run some experiments, sometimes you just don't remember like which one was changed. It's very useful to know exactly like those two were changed out of like 20. So you will know, you will understand like what happened. Yeah, I think this is a matter of kind of polishing this experiment experience. I think first we need to implement the basic functionality, right, and make sure it works and it's stable. And then, yeah, we need to like jump to like all this polishing issues. And I believe the user will create like tons of those issues and feature requests.
Yeah, tackling the hardest stuff for now with the architecture.
Yep.
Yeah, guys, any?
So I had one question, like when will you recommend experiments for short projects, like something which you do for a quick hack, like a Kaggle competition or something, like you just want to get the result immediately?
Why not? When you experiment a lot, this is like when you need experiments. For a stable project, if your project already like mature enough and you are not making a lot of not experimenting with new big ideas, then you can do even branches. Branch can be like a perfect abstraction for mature projects. But when you do a lot of changes, a lot of ideas, a lot of like hacking data, a lot of hacking code hacking, so then this is when you need experiments.
Also, one other feature which like currently metrics file is not supported without experiments, right? Can
no,
something like they do, right? Okay.
Yeah,
like yeah, like human, like kind of like so every time, like instead of saving all your experiments into a CSV file, can it be done with DVC itself, like explaining what it is being done with the public validation score, private validation score, with all the process?
Are you talking about live metrics, right? Like area under the curve, for example, right? Kind of a plotted here. Yeah, this is a separate topic. Yeah, this is like we introduced recently plots, right? Like Pavel was working on plots, and right now you have all this functionality. And yeah, we are kind of have a plans how to introduce like a better experience to live metrics for experiments. This is like a big topic. And we are not jumping to this topic right now because the experiments, the current like stuff we are talking about is kind of a heaviest part on this story. And we prefer to implement this first because there are more technical risk on this area and we need to solve this technical risk. And later we will jump back to the plots and we'll think like how to provide better experience for live metrics and plots. But this is a good point because when you do experiments, like plots is kind of a natural thing for experiments. Yeah.
Yeah, getting back to experiments again, this is such a powerful feature that it will affect pretty much every application of DVC. Even like a feature that everyone is asking us to implement for a few years now is like parallel execution, right? Which you can do that manually, right? But DVC doesn't implement any scheduling, and also if like you are building it on your master branch, right, you are not able to build it at the same time on your like other branch, right, like experimental branch or something. With experiments, we'll be able to just launch the job right on master or on your custom branch, and you will be able to continue working in your repo, right, on some other stuff. Yeah, really powerful feature.
Yeah. I was just saying, like, this is an interesting kind of a side effect of experiments, right? Experiments work kind of outside of the actual branch, and this is it opens opportunity to allow parallel execution of this kind of stuff. And because there is a demand, there's a clear demand for parallel execution. Very likely it will be implemented within the experiments framework, right? It's interesting.
And another thing that people are also asking us to implement is being able to launch your pipeline like on another machine, right? For example, on your server or in the cloud on EC2 or whatever, right? That's again will be possible with experiments because of the experiments, because we now have almost have, right, a mechanism that allows us to isolate your pipeline runs from each other, and so we will be able to transfer them to your custom server or EC2 or whatever, and run them there. It is, I mean, I'm talking about it a little bit too soon. We didn't start working on it actively yet. We have some implementation for local executors, right? Because we need to for local experiments to work, and we have designed the architecture internally so that we can extend it with cloud executors in the future. Yeah, so stay tuned for that as well. Yeah, so yeah, we're going deeply into experiments, right? This is definitely a very hot topic. But let me, I guess, mention another one, which is also something that we are constantly asked about. It is performance, right? So the speed at which we can transfer files from your local machine to the cloud, transfer them back, check for changes on your local machine, especially relevant with like big data sets, right? With big directories with like millions of files. And also monitoring it. So in optimization department, we had a lot of changes thanks to, again, Gao in Dvc Ignore. On the Dvc Ignore side, it has improved our overall performance when collecting the stages, when checking if directories have changed and stuff like that. So yeah, big thanks to Gao for that. We also implemented some indexes for the remotes in 1.0, thanks to Peter, which have sped up the process of checking for new or deleted files compared to the remote. And we actually have some potential new features, new optimizations that will improve it. Things like using some identify-based daemon, or I guess mechanism rather, to be notified of changes in your data set, right? So DVC status is much faster. This is something that we'll be implementing in the future, hopefully this year. But yeah, but if you are familiar with a project called Watchman, I think it is developed by Facebook. So we will likely be using it or something similar to that to speed up the DVC status. And also, thanks to Pavel, we have a mechanism to actually track our performance to make sure that there are no regressions during development cycle. Maybe Pavel could show us the Dvc Bench project that he's working on.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Wait a second. Let me share the screen. So, yeah. Where it is? Desktop. Yeah. Okay, so Dvc Benchmark is a project under Dvc Bench name, and we are using ASV framework to measure some, let's say, popular operations. And if you want to visit all the results from our benchmarks are available. Wait, where is Zoom? Oh, come on. Yeah, okay. I don't see where I can share the link. Yeah, but as you can see, there is a link for that. We are using GitHub pages to share the result and be able to observe them. For now, we have some of our benchmarks are not running because we recently have switched to our own runners, and I think we have some problems with obtaining our let's say temporary tokens. That's why we don't see some of the benchmarks, but it will get done. But yeah, let's take a look for a sample results. So what we see here is the results of in this case one benchmark, and in this case we are adding the cats versus dogs data set from I think it is from Kaggle, or maybe not, but yeah, anyway, it's like about 800 megabytes of data. And what we can see here is how long has been adding this amount of data been taking on different versions of DVC, and we are running the builds every night, so that we can later find if there are any problems with our implementations. And yeah, from time to time we hit some bumps that make our benchmarks well regress, and that's when we well try to find the reason for this regression, and if it's well, if it's considerable and if we can influence it in any way, we will try to do it. This particular one I think is related to the change of ongoing change to use trees. This is the feature that Ruslan mentioned before, And for now, let's say we don't make it priority to optimize this particular benchmark because the transition to trees is not finished yet. So so before we can actually start thinking about getting back to this level, we need to make sure that that the transfer to Dvc trees to trees is complete. So yeah, maybe someone has some questions about the project.
We also had quite an experience with ASV and benchmarking in general. So yeah, the project we use for benchmarking is ASV, called ASV. I think it is from NumPy guys. They use it for benching NumPy as well, right, Pavel?
Yeah, that's right. Pauli Virtanen is the main maintainer of the ASV, and he's also like one of the maintainers of NumPy. Wait, NumPy or SciPy? I am not sure.
NumPy.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm confused.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and also yeah, Pavel has been contributing stuff back to the ASV, and probably the next thing that will be contributing is PyTest fixtures, right, for this.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully we can get there to make PyTest fixtures work for ASV. Well, because that would be really convenient for us. And I guess for anyone using yeah, ASV. I mean, once you go fixtures, you don't want to go back.
Yeah. So yeah, cool. Right. Yeah, guys, I see that more guys have joined. Maybe you have any questions?
I have only not question, just some information. I will be leaving in a couple minutes because I have some other stuff, another important meeting.
Okay.
I think El and Guro have joined, so maybe.
Yeah, hi guys.
Say hi.
Another thing that we hear about a lot, this by suggestion by Jorge, is about parameterizing or templating the Dvc files themselves, right? We currently have a pull request from a contributor as well. Unfortunately, I don't think he's with us right now. About using, yeah, pretty much like having an ability to use some templating engine with DVC in a native way. So in that pull request, he's using Jinja, and I'm not sure if everyone is familiar. It is a pretty popular templating engine, yeah, that's I guess one of the steps to full-blown parameterization and I guess I could call them dynamic DVC files. This is an ongoing theme for discussions as well in our community and even in the core team about being able to use particular variables in your pipeline and writing your DVC YAML file kind of like programming, right? So it would be kind of like a DSL in YAML. But on top of that, it is clear that we will need some higher level language to build something more complex, right? So we've seen guys but creating their own libraries based on DVC to be able to use like a more Pythonic ways to create the pipelines write in their code, right? So they have created special decorators to like declare that this method is such and such command with such and such dependencies and outputs. And so when you run that method, it will automatically create like Dvc files with data saved, and yeah, very, very convenient and cool stuff. Unfortunately, I don't think that that project is public. And I mean, we will likely be introducing something similar in Dvc itself in probably in the near future. Yeah, so yeah, anything else, guys? Any questions, requests?
Can I ask one question? Like, this is a very frequently asked question to me. Like, how good is DVC's storage benchmark right now compared to Hanger, which is used another framework for data versioning?
Compared to what?
Hanger from TensorWorks. Have you checked it out?
No, I'm not actually familiar with it. Maybe someone else is familiar with it. Yes. Kurian, could you post the name in the chat? We'll look it up. Oh, maybe you are familiar with that project.
Sorry, I missed it. Could you tell me again what it was? I was checking an email.
Oh. Just a second. It should appear in the chat. Hanger Pi. Oh.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of it.
I think they always say that I haven't tried it out yet. Yeah, but they usually use Tensor for processing, and it's very faster compared to DVC. But I think now with improved benchmarks, it may be up to the same level of DVC. Yeah, well, the link which Peter Roland shared, that's exactly the point. So it's actually developed by a PyTorch core developer. I forgot his name. Luca Andiga or something like that.
So you mean faster in transferring the data?
Exactly, faster in transferring the data.
Oh, yeah, I need to look it up. Maybe there are some tips and tricks or differences in data that cause that.
So this is an alternative to Git version control. It's not like a DVC type product. It doesn't coordinate transferring, to remote storage or creating meta files. It looks like this is like we could use DVC with this instead of Git.
Yeah, it's like a data versioning project.
Yeah, interesting project. Need to look it up. First guess is that it might be based on OFS, but probably not. Probably something else is going on there. But yeah, first time hearing about it actually. Thank you for mentioning it.
It was actually featured in some conferences, like in PyCon India, the core developer was here, and also in, I think, PyData England or something, the developer came, and there was a similar talk.
Yeah. Yep. guys, anything else? Maybe any other questions? See that we have a few new guys as well. Maybe not. Wait. No. Okay. Maybe they left. All right. Yeah. If there are no other questions, I guess let's wrap it up for this time. We will be announcing the next contributor meetup in advance, and we'll probably do a poll about specific timing and maybe particular topics that you would like us to prepare or get in advance. We're also not quite sure about the format itself. So this time we're doing it in an informal way, right? Just to get this going. But we are thinking about doing some demos, right? This is actually pretty much turned into the demo, right? Pavel Peter was showing the features that they have developed, and yeah, showcasing them. So maybe that's a good format, at least for part of the meetup. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for contributing. We really appreciate it. And yeah, if you will have any ideas, comments about the meetup, or maybe some stuff that you want to see presented here or discussed here, yeah, please feel free to hit me up in personal messages, or we can discuss it on Discord in the DevTalk channel. And yeah, if you are not on Discord yet, please join. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I guess that's all then, guys. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruslan.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.